Okay, welcome back. So this is the last of our recipes. We're going to make a fish dish that has a sauce made with, the recipe uses lentils, but since we're in our sort of COVID-19 and couldn't necessarily get all the things from the store that I wanted, I thought I'd take the opportunity to show you mung beans. So mung beans are really similar to lentils in the sense that they're a plant-based source of protein. They often come dried, and you can keep them in your fridge. They last, or I mean your pantry. They last forever. I guess you could keep them in your fridge too, whatever you want to do. And they look a lot like they look a lot like a lentil. So I just put about a quarter cup in some water and brought it to a boil and cooked it for, I don't know, 15-20 minutes. And then this is what it looks like. It's sort of a little bit mushy, that they're cooked, but this is going to provide some amazing body and texture and flavor, and also protein, nutrition essentially, to the dish. That is going to pair nicely with the fish. So this is going to go into our food processor in a second, and then our apple crisp is almost done. I can show you what that looks like when it's coming out of the oven. And so the other ingredients that we're going to have here are some garlic. So I'm just going to sort of give the garlic a little help by sort of cutting it up. Okay. So we're going to throw that in our food processor. And then we're going to take our jalapeno. So this was, I don't know, I have some people in my household right now who really don't like a lot of spicy food. So again, I'm going to take the inside of the membrane and the seeds out. Again, I just want you to be aware that that is where the spiciness in this comes from. So, you know, I'm touching this with my bare hands. Obviously, I want to wash my hands after this before I touch anything else, like my face. And so just be aware of that. So that's our crisp. I know it's not done. I know it needs a little bit more time, and I'll show you what that looks like when it comes out. So we're going to give this a little help along too. We're going to add in the mung beans that I cooked, and I'll bring the food processor closer so you can see what it actually looks like when it's being rolled up. Then we're going to take some cumin seeds, and I'll show you what that looks like. These are, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. They sort of look like what the thyme looked like, but they I don't know, it's a very distinct flavor, cumin. It is really common in Southwest cuisine, and so that sort of is used a lot in the cuisine where I'm come from. So I'm going to show you how to use this mortar and pestle. So we're just going to sort of put it in there. These are the whole seeds. You could get ground if you wanted to, and just put it in the ground. But I don't know, I like sort of giving my arms a workout here. And you just sort of put it in the mortar and pestle, and you go like this, and it really doesn't take that much of an effort. And you're just going to sort of break it up. And the smell that comes out of this right now is amazing. And I think that they last a lot longer than when you get sort of powdered cumin. You could also do this in like a coffee grinder that you dedicate to spices. That's another option, but that looks about good, and that will definitely break down when we actually add some liquids in here. So that's about a teaspoon, I think, is what the recipe called for. We're going to get some lime juice or some lemon juice, some acid. So whenever I do lime juice in a recipe, I don't know, depending on how good the limes are, you may need to add more, you may need to add less. But the lime juice will provide some nice acidity. I have this lemon here just in case we need it. And then we're going to add in our herbs. We're going to add in some cilantro, and we're going to add in some parsley. Just the whole thing, just like that. Okay. And then we're going to add in some olive oil. So the recipe calls for about a half of a cup. So I'm just going to eyeball it here. Okay, and then we're going to get a little pepper and a little salt. So don't be afraid to season your food with salt. The salt and sort of the sodium content that we're sort of trying to get people to cut down on is really from processed foods. So processed foods account for about 77% of the total sodium intake. Food naturally contributes about 12% of our total sodium intake. And then sort of cooking and seasoning and sort of the home activities, that counts for about 11% of the total sodium intake for Canadians. So this is why we want people to cook more. We want them to cook more because, again, it helps control sodium levels along with blood pressure. So I'm just gonna adjust the camera just a hair because I can, and this isn't like really a cooking show. This is more for educational purposes. So you can see it, okay? So this is our mixer, our food processor. If you have one of these, great. If you don't, you could even like put this in a paper bag and a plastic bag and give it a good whack. Might take you a while, but you'd eventually get there. But this is another thing that investing in, you could also just make this in a blender if you want. So we're just gonna whisk this up, we're gonna whirl it up. Okay, so that's pretty good. Let's look at it. I'm a big fan of the T word, which is taste. You have to taste your food. So we're gonna adjust this for seasoning. The mung beans broke up really nicely in here. So you can see this is what it looks like. It's like a sauce. The salt level is great. I think it needs a little bit more acid. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this lime. I think it needs a little bit more pepper. And it could use just like a little bit of oil. Just like that. Okay, let's just do one final pulse. And then we'll taste it again. So notice when you're tasting food, you keep one spoon for like the thing you're cooking, like the pot, and then the other spoon for your mouth, so you don't cross-contaminate. That's great. Okay, and now we can use our spoon again. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna take some fish. So this is some cod. I couldn't find perch, which was in the recipe, but I found some nice cod in our sort of COVID crisis, and we're just gonna put it into, we're gonna put our mixture on top of our cod. So I'll bring my camera back down so you can see. Okay, so we're gonna take your recipe says to do it on a baking sheet. I don't know, I just decided to do it in a pan, and I just took some parchment paper and I cut it into a circle and just put it on the bottom because I think that'll be a lot easier to clean later. So we're gonna take some of our mixture and we're just gonna spoon it on the bottom. We're sort of gonna make like a nest for the fish to sit in. And by putting that parchment paper on the bottom, it will also help with cleanup. So that looks pretty good. I'll show you what that looks like. So it looks like sort of a layer on the bottom. And quite frankly, this kind of tastes like a pesto. Like you could serve this with pasta, and I think that would be delicious. So we're gonna take our fish, season it. Always season your food in stages. And again, don't fear salt in this way. It really contributes minimal amount to total sodium intake. So we're just gonna put our fish in our pan on top of the little sauce that we made. give my hands a quick rinse. And then we're going to take the rest of our sauce and put it on top. And I would be interested to try this original recipe with the red lentils, but this mung bean here is tasting pretty amazing. So again, that mung bean allows us to add some additional protein into this. We've got some protein from the fish, we've got some great healthy fats, some omega-3 fatty acids from the cod. It's very, very lean source of protein. And we're just going to pop this in the oven at 375 and cook this for, so the rule is it's about 8 minutes per inch. So this is about, I would say, 1 inch and a hair maybe on some of these pieces. So I'm going to say this will cook for about 10 minutes and I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out.